Hello IED students. In this video we're going to draw shape number 1. That's the three-dimensional L-shaped object from our isometric sheet. Is a 3D model in Inventor. We're going to use the additive method. So we're going to start off by opening up Inventor, and keep in mind your screen may look a little different than mine depending on what you've got down here for recent documents. But that doesn't really matter because we're going to start a new part today. So we can come up to the new section. We'll come down to the part icon and click on that. That'll bring us into our part file. I'm going to flip to my front-facing camera here. Good morning, folks. And I want to hold up this drawing that we've looked at before. And this is our shape. Now, with the additive method, what we're going to do is we're going to draw this base here, right, which is 1 cube high, right, 3 cubes deep. And if I'm counting correctly here, as I peek around the corner of my paper, 3 cubes wide as well. So I'm going to draw the whole base for this, and then I'm going to add on this part that sticks up. So I'm going to do this in 2 steps today. Right? We'll draw the base first, and then we're going to add this part to it, and that's why it's called the additive method, because we're going to add parts to it as we go along. So anytime we start a model in Inventor, we're going to have to start a 2D sketch. It's going to bring up these origins. Now, I'm going to start at the bottom of my object and kind of add up with it. So I'm going to pick this XZ plane. And we could do this in any plane and still end up with the right shape. But this is the one that I'm going to start with. The other thing we're going to do that's a little different is we're going to add some dimensions as we build our object here. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. But I want to draw this rectangle to a given size. So I'm going to start at the origin by clicking once with my mouse. And then I'm going to drag my cursor out in the direction I want the rectangle to go. It could go into any of these quadrants. And now what I want to do is I want to input the size of that base. We're going to draw this out to a scale of 1 grid square equals a 1/2 inch. And when I was holding that drawing up to the camera, I mentioned the base of this object is 3 grid squares wide, 3 grid squares deep, and 1 grid square tall. And so I'm going to set up the width and the depth in this sketch, and then when I extrude it, I'll set up the height. So I want my rectangle to be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. To get that, I'm going to just type on my keyboard, and the data that I enter will override the one that's highlighted in blue right now. So I'm going to click 1.5. Then I'll use my tab key to move to the other text box, and I'm going to type in 1.5. Now I can tab between these two if I want to go back and fix them. If I like the dimensions I've got, I can go ahead and hit enter. Now you might be looking at my screen or maybe your screen and going, well, what happened to my rectangle? And we're so zoomed in, we can just see a small corner section. So I'm going to come over to my nav bar, and I'm going to hit the zoom all button. That'll zoom me so I can see all of my drawing on my screen. This is where I want to do the engineering thing and confirm what I've got is correct or evaluate my work. And I can see on these 2 numbers here, this rectangle is 1.5 inches wide and it's 1.5 inches tall. Now, let's say you didn't enter the right dimensions. We can fix it at this point. I'm going to click escape to free me from the rectangle tool. Yeah, I've got my just regular white cursor here. If I had typed in this dimension wrong, I could come over here, hover with my cursor, and double click on it. It'll open up this dimension box. Maybe I had accidentally typed 1.5 point, right, and it was 15 inches long instead of 1.5 inches long. I can just double click on it, come in here, enter the correct dimension, hit the enter key, and it'll adjust the size for me. So double check, yours is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Then we're going to click the finish sketch button. Again, it always wants to zoom in on the origin, so I'm going to click the zoom all button so I get a good view of this. And now I'm going to click extrude. I want the base of this to be a 1/2 inch tall. So I'm going to go in and change my dimension here to 0.5. I don't need to put a label. This just assumes every unit I'm typing in is in inches. And then I can click OK. So there is the base for my object. Now I need to take and I need to add to get that L shape. And to add, I'm going to come over to Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to click on the top of this object. That time you maybe noticed I didn't hit zoom all. I'm using the roller ball on my mouse to zoom in and out. Right? I like using a mouse because I can also push the roller ball down and I can drag my object around. If you're not using a mouse, if you're doing this with a stylus, I'd highly recommend you get a mouse. It's going to speed things up and save you tons of time. I'm going to come back to the rectangle tool. This time I'm going to go with my cursor and see how it turns green when it hits the corner of this object. That's called the snap feature. I want to snap my cursor to the corner of that object, and then I'll click once to start my rectangle. Now I'm going to drag this object out in the direction I want it to go. And this time I want to draw a rectangle that's 0.5 inches tall and 1.5 inches wide. And then again, I'll do that engineering thing, confirm these are the right measurements. They are. It looks like what I want. I'm going to finish my sketch. And now looking on my drawing, I can see this section is supposed to be 3 cubes tall. Right? That would convert to 1.5 inches tall. So I'm going to click the extrude button. It automatically picks that closed loop for me, and it enters in the last extruded dimension all the time. So I want to change from 0.5 to 1.5. And then I can click OK. I can come back, kind of zoom in, check out my object, and this looks like what I want. So the last thing I'd like you to do, and I probably should have encouraged you to do this a little earlier, is we're going to go File, Save, and I want you to save this to your Google Drive file stream, right, in a folder that's called IED. You can see I've got lots of different folders here. I'm going to find my general IED one. And I'm going to save this in here as number 1 additive. Right, I'll be coming around checking these off as you finish them up. So make sure you save it, make sure I see it so I can get it in the grade book, and then you can move on to the next video. Thank you.